Good afternoon everyone, Merch Hunter Ricky here, and today I want to do a little bit of a different manga video. I want to talk about Martial Master Asumi. It just dropped about, I think, 2 weeks ago now on the Shonen Jump app, and I assume on, Viz Manga website and all that good stuff. And I think this manga is pretty decent. I'm not 100% the biggest fan of this type of genre because I wouldn't necessarily call this shonen. It's more like a slice of life mixed with shonen, so let's call it a slice of shonen. Now, the point of this story is to follow the events surrounding the family of Asumi, the Asumi clan rather, and the main character of this seems to be split between 3 kids, with the actual main character being Asumi Nito, or, to us Americans, Nito Asumi, and his friend, I think his friend's name is Yura, or Yuria, I don't remember because I've read it all at once and that was yesterday. And then there is a student at their school that he literally bumps into, typical anime style, named Okiba. And then we find out later that her name is Nao, N-A-O. Now, without going into spoilers to review this first chapter and second chapter, I would say overall this is some solid storytelling, no really wasted panels, dialogue, or plot beats. Everything seems to already be tying together weirdly very well. So then that would just leave the rest of the series to continue building on the main aspect of this, which is MMA. As you can probably tell by the name of the manga itself, Martial Master Asumi, MMA, right there. So a couple things to now get into the spoiler territory. So, if you don't really like that kind of stuff and you want to experience the story for yourself, I won't take any offense if you leave now. So it starts off basically with the grandfather of the family, whose name I don't remember, but he has dementia and it's taken its toll on most of the family, and he's constantly looking for a family member named Kazuro or something like that, or Kazurota, but he is passed, revealed by one of the sisters. He has passed away, and Nito is the de facto family caretaker of the grandfather, who is also revealed later on to be like a famous MMA fighter. He trains Nito just about every day when they're like spending their quality time together, but he also sometimes calls him by the name of the older brother who is long since passed. Now, the story follows Nito as he goes to school and unknowingly starts to get bullied by a couple dudes. His friend steps in, who reminds me a lot of Tenya Ida from My Hero Academia. His friend steps in and lets the bullies know, like, yo, if you want to fight me, your boxing's not going to be much against my MMA. I've been practicing. I'd have you beat. And this actually gets the bully to back off. However, another form of bullying begins because the friend starts telling Nito that he's tired of Nito being bullied and he can't handle it anymore, so he joined the gym to learn MMA. This is now where the story starts to kind of like pick up speed, because for a 55-page chapter, it actually goes by very quickly, because mainly the events of this chapter are surrounded with going to school, having that event happen, and then Yura, the friend, trying to convince Nito to join the gym. And I believe it ends up being Yoshi's MMA gym or something like that. But this is interesting because then they meet a girl, Okiba, who I mentioned earlier. She's also very good at MMA. And I don't really remember the specifics of how they get on the topic, but basically they end up going with her to the gym at some point, either in the first chapter for Nito to see if he likes it or not, and I don't think he did. He would rather focus on taking care of his grandfather, and then, later on they also reveal, and I'm just going to start just talking about chapters 1 and 2 together because they kind of go concurrently. At the end of chapter 1, Nito is leaving the gym and he gets jumped by the 3 people that were bullying him early on in the chapter. And then like something unlocks inside of him where he just starts ruining these people with MMA techniques. And he probably did it subconsciously from training with his grandfather for so long and not really knowing that would come out of him. But he then explains in chapter 2, like that's not really a thing he does. That was like a one-off. He doesn't think he could do it again. But Okiba is very insistent on getting him to join the gym. And a little bit of a plot thread starts to develop where Okiba has taken an injury in like a year prior's MMA tournament. And her father, who owns the gym they are currently training at, wants her to explain it to him or she can't go pro. So that's like her developing storyline, whereas Nito's is just simply wanting to take care of his grandfather. And the friend's storyline is trying to get Nito and himself to be tougher people at school to avoid being bullied. So all of them share a common goal of wanting to get stronger, albeit for 3 different reasons. And this all culminates with them going to the gym together. And I believe this is going to be the current arc beat of this manga. And just straight up right now, I do not plan on covering this often, but when I do, I'll probably do about 3 to 5 chapters all at once, okay? So a very interesting plot thread develops between Okiba and Nito. Obviously, you know, this is going to be high school shonen, which is, like I said before, it's not my cup of tea. I'm 31, but I like the way that they kind of like are meshing together, because that's kind of how love forms naturally between 2 individuals, no matter what the age, right? It's like a happenstance occurrence of meeting each other plus time spent together plus common interest equal relationship. And this is kind of how theirs starts to bud, where Nito is at the gym with her after she has seen him unleash holy fury on those 3 bullies. And with that fury unleashed, she starts to suspect that Nito is the family member of a famous fighter with the last name Asumi. And I believe he does reveal this to her, but they don't really harp on it too much. But, you know, basically, he is challenged by the father because the father sees him kind of fawning over Okiba. And it's not necessarily like I am in love with her thing, but he thinks that she's pretty awesome and he is kind of crushing on her. Now, Okiba uses this to her advantage when he squares up with the dad, because the dad challenges Nito to a fight at some point. Now, really what this happens over is because it's found out that Nito wants to go pro, or not Nito, Okiba wants to go pro, and her father finds out that she used her mother's signature to get the permission to enter like a pro tournament. This pisses the father off, and because Nito is the one that let the father know that this is kind of a thing that's happening, the father gets mad and wants to blow his steam off on Nito. Nito's inner beast kind of unlocks, not all the way like on those bullies, but a little bit while sparring the father, who, by the way, the father is a former pro MMA fighter, so he's no chump. This is a real fighter, a real seasoned man, if you will. There's a really funny panel that I really enjoy where he's like, I'm sensing perverted thoughts. I don't let perverts around my daughter. And he's got this like dead dad look, and I am a father of 2 baby girls. So that one really resonated with me. So if there's going to be more father action in this, I will probably stick around for this manga. I thought that was hilarious. I highly enjoyed the way that they draw him and they show him squaring up with Nito, and you know, he is treating Nito like a man, and I like that a lot. Now onto their fight. The ultimate basis of this fight is that if Nito wins, Okiba can go pro, and if Nito loses, Okiba will admit what happened with her serious injury at the prior martial arts tournament she was a part of to the father. And I mean, either way, it feels like she'll be allowed to go pro, and it seems like getting out of high school and going pro will be the basis of the rest of the story for this manga. I don't know how much long they have in high school left, but like I said, I'm not like a high school manga guy. That's not really my thing anymore. I have followed One Piece since I was a high schooler, so that one's a little different, and they were never in school to begin with, right? And you know, Naruto, same thing. They were in like the tuning exams in school before that, and then after that, it's gone. My Hero Academia, I don't really cover that on this channel, but I like it, and it's more the superhero aspect I like, not the school aspect, right? So that's just kind of a thing. So what I really like about this manga in particular is the concurrent writing that doesn't really waste my time. They just move from plot beat to plot beat over and over again. Like, it's just woof really fast. They make use of different aspects of paneling, where like, you know, different members of Asumi's family will tell the Asumi family story via the way they're moving or the way they're drawing, or just flat out explaining it, because we don't even meet Nito till like the 3rd or 4th page. Like, it doesn't start with him, it starts with the grandfather, and then you meet one of the daughters who happens to look like the mother, who the grandfather kind of forgets and thinks is the mother, or who I assume is the mother. And we have not seen her yet, I don't think, because she's always at work, which is, in America, families have to deal with that here too, and it's kind of sad because I believe that all families should get the time allotted to be spent with one another. And it's a shame that a lot of families suffer from, things like this. Also, the grandfather having dementia, very sad. Nito's ultimate goal of wanting to become a nurse caretaker for people like his grandfather is highly admirable. It kind of broke me a little bit when I read that, because you don't really meet that many kids who have a goal to sacrifice their life for someone else's well-being. And it reminds me a lot of my wife. She lived that life for a very long time before she met me. And so it hit home, And one thing that this manga does really well is make the main three characters' goals somehow align with one another to be at that gym. So I hope we get a lot of gym content, a lot of gym scenes, and more fighting, because chapter 2 ends basically at the beginning of their fight. Because what happens is Nito goes for a grapple on the father once the terms of the fight are known, and the father immediately gets him in the front mounted position and is about to go for the ground pound, but Nito breaks by sliding a little bit underneath him while simultaneously pushing his back upwards. This causes the father to slide forward and be on his hands. And Nito gets up and gets ready in stance, and the father gets ready in stance, and they kind of just stare at each other down, and that's where the chapter ends. So chapter 3 will most likely be a chapter-long fight, hopefully, between Nito and Okiba's dad, a retired pro MMA fighter, or at least just a currently not fighting, not active fighter. And I mean, like I said, he's well built. He's drawn to be kind of a Chad, but also a helicopter parent. He's afraid of his daughter getting hurt, but at the same time also seriously does not want his daughter to compete until she can talk about the injury she sustained previously. So, for a high school manga, this is getting surprisingly mature, because they're clearly in what seems to be their last 1 or 2 years of high school. And I like that, because that is the formative years of a child's life. Those last few years is trying to figure out how you want to proceed going to college, what you want to do after college. It's all very scary, It took me a long time to figure that stuff out. I didn't really go to college. I finished community college, and that was that for me. I was done. I've been doing different jobs ever since, and I just like it this way. College was not for me. So if he's going to take the path of a fighter, I find that highly interesting, because that is one that assumingly does not need proper schooling, but instead training. So all of that being said, I think it's a very good manga, and it has potential. Like I said, I will not be covering it often, but I will cover it, because I don't want this channel to just be a One Piece channel. As you can see, I branched out with Fabricant 100. I did a little Jangshi X video once. When I do One Piece content, it's typically about Devil Fruits and not really the story itself, but I do talk about the story itself sometimes. It is my favorite manga of all time, primarily the only one I read. I have recently read all of Dragon Ball Super, and I would like to collect my thoughts and get that into video form soon. And Devil Fruits 13 will be releasing on Saturday, as scheduled at noon. For the most part, though, I want to say, if you have any other manga things, old or new, any more suggestions, just drop them below. I'll get to them as I get to them. If you want to have them immediately be the next video I make, go to my Ko-Fi, pay the $5, and explain what you want me to cover and why, and we will go from there. I've already had one successful transaction of this nature from Sea Freak, and he wanted me to do an aerogel devil fruit of an artificial type Logia that he created himself. It was a very fun video to do, and I love doing things like that. I want to make this a fan interactive, commentary interactive, subscriber interactive YouTube channel where I do not gate content. I will get to it as I get to it, because I am only one guy. I literally shoot, produce, edit, all of that stuff, get the B-roll, all of it. I do it all by myself most of the time. So, it takes a little bit longer than the average YouTube channel to do that, especially because most of this is an entirely out-of-pocket venture for me. So that's been that. I really like this new manga, and like I said, I'll probably get back to covering it in about 2 weeks. Okay? Merch Hunter Ricky, out. This is after filming Ricky again. You can see my setup still up. I just wanted to say this manga also has a very goofy nature to it, despite how serious and kind of sad it gets at times. But honestly, it's got a lot of potential. I think my favorite panel from both chapters was the very last panel of chapter 2, where he is like stuck taking his shirt off. I find that just alarmingly amusing.